Hello and welcome to my talk about breath and harnessing the healing power. My name is Lynn Jocelyn. I am a functional medicine physician assistant and a certified food and spirit practitioner. I recently opened Integrated Spectrum of Health, functional medicine membership practice. And so I'm excited to share and teach you a little bit today about breath and how it can support your health. Quick medical disclaimer, all of the information I'm sharing with you today is for educational purposes only. I do not advocate or encourage you to change any prescription medications or supplements without talking with your primary care provider. And anytime you make major lifestyle changes, it is important that you talk with your primary care practitioner. So let's get started. Breath is free. Breath is accessible, breath is available, and breath is personal. Conscious breathing teaches us to be the pilots of our autonomic nervous system in our bodies, not just the passengers. This is a quote from James Nestor's book, Breath, which I recently read, and it was a really wonderful culmination of so much of the things I already know about breathing and the breath practices that I have done, but to have it all in one place and to hear it through James Nestor's way of teaching it and story, it was a really great book. I highly recommend it. So breathing is both autonomic and voluntary. And what that means is autonomic is something that our body doesn't have to think about. We don't have to tell our body to do. And voluntary is something we choose into. So let's first talk about the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system controls all of the parts of our body that we don't have to think about or tell our body to do. Like, we don't have to tell our body to increase the heart rate. We don't have to tell our body to increase or decrease our blood pressure. Our digestion, metabolism, how our body sweats, if we cry and create tears or sexual response, all of these things are just autonomic. The autonomic nervous system has two main divisions. The sympathetic nervous system, which is the part of our nervous system that controls, that controls our ability to perceive and react to danger. So fight or flight, it prepares the body for danger. The sympathetic nervous system, if you look over here, is located mainly along our thoracic vertebrae, and there are nodes here that go out to our main organs. And when this is stimulated, it is a fast response. These neuron pathways are shorter than our parasympathetic nervous system, which we'll see shortly. And so it's a quicker, faster response. It does things like increases our heart rate, increases our blood pressure, increases our muscle tone and ability to react. And it shunts the blood away from the bodily functions that we don't need, things like digestion or rest and digest, because when we are in danger, we need to react quickly. The parasympathetic nervous system is where our body goes to rest and digest. It brings the body into a state of calm. It has longer neuron pathways, so it's a slower response. And this is the part of our autonomic nervous system that promotes balance or homeostasis. If you think about how we live in our current society and culture, most of us are living out of balance of our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. So often we are driven by our sympathetic nervous system. Unfortunately, the body perceives danger the same as a tiger coming at you in the wilderness, as well as a very intense, important deadline. The body's chemical reaction to this is the same. And so we are under a lot of stress. So what I'm finding and working with people and looking at different health scenarios is so often its root cause is overdrive of sympathetic nervous system. So breath is one of the tools that we can use to bring ourselves out of that fight or flight and into this system, our parasympathetic nervous system, to help our body learn to rest and digest. So breath, how we breathe matters. We inhale and exhale 25,000 times a day, and this equates to 25,000 opportunities for choosing into health. The old thinking about breath is that it's only autonomic, meaning our body just knows to do it, and we don't have to tell our body to do it. We don't have to be conscious of this. The old thinking is breathing equals life, not breathing equals death. And I think it's not quite that simple. I also believe that we have the ability to choose how we breathe. Our body's going to autonomically breathe for us until we die. But how we breathe is under our voluntary choice. So how we breathe can improve our quality of life and health, not just merely sustain life. And how we breathe also can decrease our quality of life and health, moving us along the continuum of disease. And this is where we have the choice. So I find that something called disordered breathing and we'll go through some of these patterns, but disordered breathing leads to dysfunction of our physiological body systems, which then leads to systemic inflammation and then leads to chronic disease. Let's take a quick peek at the science of breathing. So the science of breathing is our respiratory system, and it's a complex network of organs and tissues that help you breathe. So things that are organs and systems, the nose, the mouth, the sinuses, pharynx, trachea, diaphragm, ribs, lungs, bronchial tubes, alveoli, capillaries, bronchioles, pleura, cilia, epiglottis, and larynx. So there's a lot of complex interactions between all of these systems that basically is a gateway for the long journey of our breath. Now, what is the function of breathing? Why do we need it? Well, it brings oxygen, which is the main fuel for our function and all of our bodily systems. It allows us to talk and smell. Breathing through the nose warms and moisturizes and humidifies the air. The function of respiration and breathing also removes the gases such as carbon dioxide during exhalation. So as our body is going through biochemical processes, there are byproducts. And some of these byproducts, one of them is CO2. So our body exhales that, and that's the way it can get rid of this gas that's not serving us. And it also protects airways from viruses and bacteria and other toxins entering. When we breathe through our nose, there's fine little hairs there that can capture, and also mucosa that can capture viruses and bacteria and other toxins. And if they don't continue down that long path into our body, then they don't wreak havoc or cause disease. So taking a quick look at the body, and all these areas are part of our breathing and our respiration. And then the lungs, and then the alveoli are the small little sacs way at the bottom. So you breathe in through your trachea, it goes through your main bronchial tubes into your bronchioles and down to these alveoli, which are these phenomenal sacs that then intersect with our capillaries. And this is where the diffusion of oxygen into the body and carbon dioxide out happens. So the two main gases that we'll talk about with breathing today, and there's some more, but the two main one are oxygen and carbon dioxide. I want to pause here a minute with carbon dioxide because for a long time we thought that carbon dioxide was just a toxic byproduct of our biochemical reactions in the body, and that we just needed to get rid of it. And that oxygen really was the main gas of breathing. But what we know now is that carbon dioxide is actually probably the main trigger for breathing. And there's certain breath practices that we can do that teach us how to retain a little more carbon dioxide in the body so that we're actually able to pull that oxygen out of the blood cells more efficiently. And this was first described by Christian Bohr in 1904, and it's now known as the Bohr effect. This is a physiological phenomenon that the higher the concentration of carbon dioxide in the body, the easier oxygen is released in the tissues for fuel. So really finding that balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen is really important for efficient breathing. And again, carbon dioxide really is the trigger for breathing. So I think we should look at it not just as a toxic byproduct, but as a very vital and important part of the whole respiratory system. So now we're going to go over just a few simple breathing tips that can really transform your health. The beautiful thing about using breath work and using breath as part of your healing repertoire or regime is that it's simple, it's accessible, and it's free. So one of the big ones, if you change nothing and you begin to work on this one, you will already have shifts in your health. Breathe through your nose. Advantages of breathing through your nose are that it acts as a filter. Like I talked about, it actually captures viruses, bacteria, and toxins before they wreak havoc and stimulate the immune system. It adds moisture to prevent dryness in the lungs. It warms the air to our body temperature, and it adds resistance to the airstream. This supports the ability of the body to take that oxygen up into the tissues. Reasons that people have trouble or challenges breathing through their nose may be nasal congestion from coughs, colds, allergies, enlarged adenoids, enlarged tonsils, perhaps a deviated septum, enlarged turbinates, which are part of the nasal passage, the shape of your nose. Perhaps you've had a broken nose in the past and it changes the shape or deviates the septum. And then the shape and size of your jaw. And then rarely tumors can affect whether or not you can breathe through your nose. So we really want to avoid mouth breathing. If you have some of these symptoms, you may be a mouth breather. If you snore, have a really dry mouth, bad breath, a real hoarse voice. If you're waking tired and irritable, one of the things I would look at is, are you breathing through your mouth while you sleep? Chronic fatigue, brain fog have been associated with mouth breathers, dark circles under the eyes, and increased, like we talked about, an increased systemic inflammation leading to chronic disease. So tip number one is do your best. Just bring awareness. Notice, are you a mouth breather or a nose breather? And begin to change that pattern. So next breath tip is to breathe slow. Advantages of breathing slow is that it's more efficient. The body uses less energy to breathe slow, so there's more energy for other bodily functions. It's more efficient in the way the body can take the oxygen up into the cells. It improves heart rate variability, increases vagus nerve activity, and our vagus nerve is the main nerve in our parasympathetic autonomic nervous system. So it helps us get to that state of calm, out of that fight or flight, and it induces calm and decreases anxiety. So I wanted to show you real quick over here what heart rate variability is. In the blue curve up here, this person is in a very calm state. Their parasympathetic tone is very active. And this coherence is very good for health and decreasing overall inflammation. So heart rate variability is the change between beats of your heart rate. And one super simple way you can check this is by taking your pulse. You can just find your pulse at your wrist here. Just give you a few minutes to find that. And I want you to begin to take a deep inhale. What you should notice, and then exhale. What you should notice on the inhale is that there is a quickening of your heart rate. And when you exhale, that heart rate slows. We actually want that variability in beats. We want the heart rate to be responsive to different things and stimuli in our environment. When it's not, down here in this lower curve, there's lots of jagged, small, little variability. But this is a stressed individual. So their heart rate is not supporting coherence in the body. So this is a very rudimentary way to check it. There's heart rate variability, heart math devices, an Oura ring can also help this. So if you have access to any of these things, this is a great thing to teach you how your body is managing stress. So thinking about breathing slower, slow breathing at a rate of 5.5 breaths a minute has been found to be equivalent to a variety of spiritual practices. And I think this next piece is really fascinating. There's been some studies looking at Buddhist mantras, a really main one of their Buddhist mantras, the Catholic prayer cycle of Ave Maria, Hindu Taos, and Native American prayers all have a link to this breath pattern of an inhalation of 5.5 breath, exhalation of 5.5, which equates to 5.5 breaths a minute. In 2001, there were some researchers at the University of Pavia in Italy that studied this breath and count along with prayer. And they found that blood flow to the brain increased and bodily systems entered a state of coherence through measuring heart rate, blood flow, and nervous system feedback. So they found that the body in this breath work, along with this prayer, was able to find that very coherent state. This was again repeated in the late 2000s by Patricia Gerbarg and Richard Brown, using the same breathing pattern without the prayer. And they looked at people with anxiety and depression and found significant improvements in their symptoms. So this became known as resonance or coherence breathing. It's basically inhaling for 5.5 seconds, exhaling for 5.5 seconds, and this works out to almost exactly 5.5 breaths a minute. The next tip that we'll talk about is extend your exhale. This is really great for people with anxiety or people who live in that fight or flight, that sympathetic state of their nervous system. Because by extending your exhale, you stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, improve that heart rate variability, increase the vagus nerve activity, and induce calm and anxiety, and decreasing anxiety. Again, it's free, accessible anytime, and available. Conscious breathing, again, teaches us to be the pilots of our autonomic nervous system and our bodies, not the passengers. So just breathe. Let's look at some really quick, simple breath practices that you can integrate into your day. If you want to stimulate energy, balance, or stimulate your body to get things going, the simplest way is inhale a count of 4, exhale a count of 2, repeat this 2 minutes or longer. So basically your exhale is a little shorter. Again, this is going to get that sympathetic nervous system going. So if you're somebody that constantly lives at that state, this may not be one you want to do a lot. But if you wake up one day and you're feeling really groggy, this is a great one to start your day with. To experience relaxation, tranquility, and decrease anxiety, this is the simplest way to bring calm. Inhale a count of 4, exhale a count of 6. Repeat this for 2 or more minutes. And you can also find your natural breath rhythm. And basically, this is an extended exhale of 2 or 3 breaths longer than your inhale. To stimulate performance, this is a really great one when you want that balance of calm and focus. It's called the box breath. Many of you have probably heard of this. You inhale for a count of 4, hold your breath for 4, exhale for a count of 4, hold your breath for 4, and repeat 2 or more minutes. To induce sleep and deep relaxation, this is the 4-7-8 breath. Inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 7, exhale for a count of 8, and repeat. This is really great as you're laying there trying to fall asleep. Do this for 2 or more minutes. And this is the Coherence Breath for Life, the beautiful symbiotic, or this idea that this really can bring your body into coherence with your heartbeat, your blood flow, and your neurological systems. Inhale for 5.5 seconds, exhale 5.5 seconds. This is a circular breathing without pause. Repeat 10 or more times. So remember, breath is free, breath is accessible, breath is available, and breath is personal.